So, hello. I was asked today by somebody if I would put some videos up. And so I said, well, ask me a question and maybe that'll help. And so this person asked me a question. Actually, they asked me a couple, but I'm just going with the first question. And the question was something like this. What do you, what do you do if you're in a relationship where something like where you love the person, but you don't love them completely? Or you're kind of lukewarm about the person. How do you let go of something that's so? I think it was something like that, and I thought, oh, how sad. But then, as I talked, this person revealed to me that they were actually referring to their job, but was just using a relationship as a metaphor. So that's the topic that I thought. Uh, I found it an interesting topic, so that's what I wanted to talk about. So, there's a quote that I like. Well, actually, before I get to that, so, I'm going to use the relationship analogy, but again, I think it applies to any area of life, whether it's work or what else is there? Hobbies, uh, organ, associations with organizations, and so on. That we can have this kind of so relationship. Yeah, and we know that maybe it's not right for us. It doesn't. We don't find deep fulfillment, but we have trouble letting it go. Maybe it offers some comfort or the familiar. And so, and somewhere deep inside, we might feel or know that there's something more fitting to us. Some people would use the word better, but more fitting and somehow more fitting to our hearts, to our spirits, more in alignment with who we are or whatever, right? And I think that when I reflect upon my own life and my own experiences, uh, and I look at like to whatever extent I think of to whatever extent of fulfillment and right fit that I have in in areas of my life, and I think all my areas of life are pretty much at the same level, so I could just say life. Um, the number one factor I would say that has led to that place, at least for myself, where I don't feel, so I don't relate to the questioner's uh, sentiment of like, well, this is so, and how do I let this go? So that sentiment doesn't exist in me. So I assume that that means that at least at this point in time, how I'm living is a better fit or better aligned with who I am today. I'm sorry if this is very long-winded, but I'm also thinking off the top of my head as I'm recording this. I don't have a script or anything. So when I think about that, I think that maybe possibly the most important factor that has led there has been the ability to let go of that which wasn't in alignment with who I sort of imagine or feel myself to be today, or who I was 5 years ago or whatever, right? That letting go of that which isn't a great fit, letting go of that which is okay or even good, allows one to then reach for or pursue or allow for uh, something that is more than good, that is great or wonderful or just right. So that capacity to letting go, I think, is an important thing. And that reminds me of a quote. Um, uh, I think it's by Ajahn Chah. I have it on my WhatsApp. It's my actually profile photo on it used to be my profile photo on WhatsApp. And the quote is something like, if you let go a little, well, actually, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's something like, if you let go a little, you will have a little freedom. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of freedom. If you let go completely, you will have complete freedom. And And in a lot of ways, I would say that freedom, at least in my view, is the central thesis of the Dharma, at least as taught by the historical Buddha. His teachings usually are summarized in the Four Noble Truths, and the Four Noble Truths concern suffering and liberation from suffering. And so freedom from suffering. In a psychological sense, we could say freedom from ego or freedom from self. I think these are all different ways of pointing to the same type of phenomena. And so freedom, and so Ajahn Chah, that quote, is talking about freedom being intimately or inextricably tied with the capacity to let go. So this video is really going to focus on, I'm going to focus on the central thesis of letting go, because that's what the question really is about. How do I let go? So, but I think that that's a very human condition that the questioner posed. Yeah, I think we've all been there. Yeah, I'm in this situation, I can't let go. Like at the very lowest level, I think it's, we can think of it as like addiction is a form of I'm stuck with something and I can't let it go. But the questioner is kind of operating at a slightly higher level, or a moderately or maybe significantly higher level than addiction, where they're talking about this is okay, but it's just so and so. And somehow there's a deep unfulfillment. How can I let this go? But I'm afraid, right? So if it's a person, it might be I'm afraid that I'll never meet anybody. If it's a job, I'm afraid I'm going to go broke and end up on the streets, or whatever the insecurities and fears may be in one's mind. And so I have a thought as to like a prescription, like what you should do. If I was in your situation, what I would do. But before I offer the prescription, I think it's more important to understand what's happening. So I can't remember how many years ago, but I was involved in a relationship. And when the relationship ended, I struggled immensely to let go. And even 2 years later, after the end of the romantic relationship, I was still holding on, and I couldn't enter a new relationship with my heart. And just the thought of her would get me sort of tense, or I knew that I hadn't let go. And there were times that I had convinced myself I had let go, and I would talk about her, and people would say, "You haven't let go, Yuichi," and then I would get upset, like, "No," like that. So I know what it's like to not let go of something, but I don't know what happened at some point. It's not so much that I let go, but something let go inside of me. And I think this may have taken about 3 to 3.5 years. And I recognized when something inside of me just let go. And I felt free. I felt free to that. And it wasn't like I suddenly disliked this person or didn't want this person in my life. In fact, I was happy to be friends. But that holding on, that clutching, that likely out of fear, had just ceased. And it didn't come back. So I think that's a pretty normal experience. But this is, for me, what's interesting about that experience was that from that point forward, what I've noticed about myself is that I can enter, for example, a relationship, or I've entered a relationship full-heartedly, and when it has ended, it's not hard for me to let go. And maybe there's many ways to interpret that. But the way that I've chosen to interpret it is that across those 3.5 years where I thought I was struggling to let go of a person or struggling to let go of a relationship, I now view it as, yeah, that may have been my perception and that may have been the story. But really what was happening underneath was I was learning to let go at a deeper level than I previously had been able to. And so that relationship and the end of that relationship was just kind of like a lesson. It was like a classroom where I was learning this one skill of letting go, or developing that letting go muscle at a much deeper level than I had previously been able to. That's why it was so challenging. And so from the outside, it may have looked like, wow, Yuichi's very slow at letting go. He took 3.5 years. But looking back, it was like I was learning to let go at a 3.5 year level. Like it was like I went through a 3.5 year training in letting go. And the product of that was that since that moment, I find it impossible for me to hold on and grasp to whatever level. I just got a message, so I had to swipe it off my phone. Yeah, I hope that what I'm saying is clear. That I thought I was working on something, but in fact, something else was happening. And that capacity to let go at a deeper level has shown up across my life. And more importantly, to connect it back to the quote by Ajahn Chah, my level of internal freedom has stayed at the level correspondent to whatever it took for me to let go of that relationship and the person, or my ideas of the person and my ideas of the relationship that I'd invested so much of my hope and dreams and wishes and wants and desires into. And so life has become much more free, or there's an inner, a kind of a inner a lightness of being. Oh, what's that? Unbearable lightness of being. That's the name of the book I was thinking. So it's not unbearable, but there's a kind of a light quality of heart that's regularly present. I'm not going to say every single moment, but that's regularly present. And it's easy to get there. And I attribute it to those 3.5 years of training. So my first comment has to do with the fact that even if we think we're not letting go, if we're continually doing our best and struggling with this idea of letting something go, it may not be that we're just working on the job or the relationship. It may be that something's being worked on us that will sort of bear fruit later. The most important kind of fruit that can be born, which is a shift in our being, a shift in our sort of psyche. So this video is fairly long, so I'm going to go to part 2 after this.